this motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
All right, guys, what is going on? Super excited. I got Brady from DAC Performance and Health today. There are a lot of things that we want to cover, but I just want to, Brady will do a quick little intro. I know every podcast you go on, you got to do the little background and intro, but I want to share how I met Brady. Real quick, like I had some stuff going on, hamstring, calf things, and for 2 years I couldn't figure it out, but then I'm always looking for the answer. Happened to be on my way to Lowe's, and I saw you were on that podcast with Mark Bell. And the thing that first stuck out to me was the title, which was tendon strengthening. And then as soon as I heard you speaking, I was like, oh, this is what I'm missing. And so like literally, I think after I listened to that interview, then I messaged you. I was like, all right, dude, we got to get to work.
Yeah.
So Brady, welcome. Why don't you give a little intro, a little background?
Yeah. So first of all, I appreciate you having me on. I always enjoy doing these and just talking with dudes that have similar mindsets and want to learn and get better at similar things. So appreciate that. But so for myself, it really started. I mean, it's been quite a long journey. I'll keep it as short as I can. Just basically for myself, it was starting off around 8th or 9th grade for me, which now is 14 or 15 years ago at this point. And for me personally, it was I wanted to get into baseball is what I was interested in getting into. So I wanted to play at as high of a level as possible. And so what happened was, I mean, back at that time, it was just like online forums. So whatever I could find online, communities there. I was kind of living out in the middle of nowhere, so like there's no one in my area that was interested in kind of pushing the envelope like I was. And so I just started looking and researching, talking to people, and just digging into everything that I could dig into, starting around 8th or 9th grade. So that continued on, played baseball through college. I mean, there's a lot that went into that whole process, but again, we'll keep it a little bit shorter. And really what ended up happening is as I got into the transition towards the end of my college career playing baseball, I was like, what is going to happen next, or what am I going to do next? And that's when I started my first training business, which was DAC Baseball. It was specifically for baseball players at that time. And the way that started was as I was going through this process and learning things along my journey from, when I really started researching up through around the end of college, I started to put out material, not with the goal of building a business, but just simply because I wanted to share what it was that I was going through. Me typing things out, communicating helped me understand them better. And so I just started putting out content, putting out information on, at that time it was like a website and then Twitter where I was starting to share information. And then from that, I had people that started to reach out, ask questions, and wanted to start to get some actual training. So that is what turned into the first business that I had, which, like I said, was solely for baseball players. And then that turned into around 2020, 2021. It's funny because it was right around the time when like COVID hit. But it was not related to COVID at all. Like I stopped the previous thing that I was doing maybe a week before that started, transitioned to DAC Performance and Health, which is what I'm doing now. I've been doing that since roughly August.
Meeting is being recorded.
And me trying to help other people do that as well. So a lot of it is, as you know, a lot of it is rehab and injuries with the physical body, and then helping in any other way we can as well.
Yeah, that it's always funny. Like, I try to talk to as many strength coaches as I can that, like you said, like people like us who are trying to explore, not just, I just want to lose a little bit of weight, but like really explore and go deep and like what is possible with this thing right here. And so the first kind of topic or question, and there's always a lot of similarities as you're speaking, like, that I've gone through and then other strength coaches. The first question that comes up, and, because it's just so prevalent, everybody's dealing with something or another, is pain. And I just love how you articulate these things. But one of the things that I kind of tell people, and I don't remember where I read it, is I've been, again, like you, I've been doing this probably like, I don't know, since 2008 or 9, so quite a while. And when the topic of pain comes up, which is what pain has got me, is what got me into strength and conditioning, because the traditional medical system and PTs, they don't have a very good success rate. And so I had to start figuring out answers for myself. But what I kind of say is like pain is information. And I know you talk about that a lot. And what I've kind of been talking about over the years is like it's a perfect, beautiful, elegant system. And the way that most people interpret pain is they go, "Oh, my elbow hurts." And their only focus is, this is something undesirable. I don't like how it feels. I need to get rid of it. Or they're just so wrapped up in the frustration of it. Versus understanding that that pain is it's not bad. It's not something to remove. It's there as a guidance system. So like, how do you kind of think about that, and kind of articulate that to people, and then obviously how you incorporate it into, all the stuff that you're doing, which, by the way, I'll put in some videos and things as well, but some of the stuff that you're doing, is pretty, well, like all of the stuff is pretty nuts, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. So pain is a big one, right? So what I start with is the basic premise of why your body presents you any type of feedback. So whether it's something that feels good or whether it's where you don't feel anything at all, because there is even when you don't feel anything, that is a level of feedback. All it means is like you're getting feedback that you don't have to pay attention to, right? So it's important to understand that you're always getting feedback. It's just what you're going to feel or what you're going to experience is that which your body is saying, this is what you need to pay attention to right now. Like if you're just sitting outside in 130 degrees and there's nothing else going on, the feedback that you're getting is my body is sweating like crazy and I kind of want to get out of this, right? Versus if it's like you just fell out of a tree and you hit your hip is going to give you that feedback. If you're sitting in a perfectly comfortable situation or scenario and your body is great, you may very well actually not get feedback from anything. So it's simply understanding that your body is providing you feedback based on the entirety of the conditions that you're in, both external conditions as well as internal conditions within your own system, right? So if we understand that, then from there we can start to look at, okay, what is pain? And so pain is essentially like an alarm system where you're asking your body or you're asking yourself to do something it's not prepared to do. And because of that, it is providing you the sensation to tell you like, hey, we're not quite ready to do that, right? And pain, inhibition, tightness, any type of like lockdown is your body's way of protecting itself, because your body's basic goal is to protect itself. It wants to keep you here and it wants to continue. So it will do what it has to do to protect itself. So like if we go into a specific example with pain, let's say that you're having pain in your elbow, right? The loop that essentially happens is you have all these different sensors, or the sensory system that's taking in information from that external and internal environment that is all around you and within you. You have sensors that are taking in information that's sending information up to your brain, right? This continual loop. Your brain gets that, and if that information is or if your brain interprets that information as this is something that we're not ready to do, the response from the brain will be to tighten that down, to lock it down, or to provide pain, right? And so it's just like understanding that is what actually creates the pain or the tightness, is that loop. And so what we want to do then with pain is get to the point where your body, like there's kind of two different ways that I think about it, or two different parts. Number one, the actual physical sensors that your body has, the information that provides, or the feedback that it provides up to your brain is clean. We want to handle that when we're handling pain. And we also want to handle the way that you interpret or process the feedback that you get, because two different people can get like similar feedback, but interpret it in different ways, where then the response is different. Like if we take someone that's just two ends of the spectrum, someone that's super, super, super sensitive about pain, their response when they get the same feedback is going to be different than if we take someone who is like super, super desensitized to pain. And I'm not saying that either one is better or worse right now. I'm just saying that they're going to have different effects on how your body presents in terms of the pain, the tightness, the restriction, and the inhibition, right? So there's those two aspects that we want to handle when we're talking about pain, is the feedback that you're getting as well as how you interpret that. And the end goal of it being we get to the point where your system or your body entirely as a whole no longer has to present any type of restriction or inhibition for you. And so you're getting feedback, but it's not feedback that you have to pay attention to. And so we handle that through the different training and all that stuff, which are more specifics. But that's like the basic principle of it.
And that brings to mind something that you say frequently, and I had never thought about it this way. Is, the goal is not to like fix the thing; it's to not even think about the pain or the injury anymore. That's real recovery. And so, one thing that I've noticed a lot is like people get so like fixated on the injury itself and like just the emotions around it, that even if like they're making progress physically, they're not going to be able to let go of that. Like how many people are like, oh yeah, I had this ankle injury like 20 years ago, and like here we are 20 years later, and this thing that happened is still affecting everything that you're doing and maybe preventing you from, engaging with life in the ways that you would like to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where, and I think a lot of that comes down to starting with education of, is this something that the individual, the person, or myself, yourself, whatever, is this something that the individual thinks can actually happen? Like, if we go back to the elbow example, is you being able to move, utilize, and function with your elbow without having to think about it, or just not even, it's like not even without having to think about it, because then it's kind of like an active, like, I'm trying not to think about it type thing. It's more like, can you just not consider it, period? Yeah. Is that a reality to you? Right? Like if you just sit here and you're like, I don't have to consider that, and it's just not there. Is that a reality to you? It's kind of like starting with that, so the person can, because like you said, sometimes we all get stuck in our own whatever, whether it's pain or whether it's something with business or something with whatever that's going on. We all get stuck in our own little like loops and all the little shit that we have going on, right? So can we start with just getting them outside of that a little bit to be like, what would it be like if you didn't have to consider that? And then they're like, if they actually go into it, like, either I don't know, or like I have some fuzzy idea, or whatever it is, that starts that conversation.
Yeah. So, that, and we've talked a little bit, like, like you said, it shows up in every area, not just the physical body. Like we've talked a little bit about, my, struggles or using that analogy, injuries as far as business wise. And I've noticed like, okay, you're so fixated on this problem, like, are you even open to the possibility that, hey, you could have more success in business, or you could have XYZ in this area? Because if you're not even thinking about that, then how would that even be possible? How much of that do you think, like that the way that we perceive pain or our perspectives around it is so, how much do you think is influenced by culture, society, just people talking about, because we know what the predominant perception is about pain. And kind of why it's so important to start thinking about it from the other side, and then starting to like, I would say, like, honor that desire. Like, we have these desires, can you actually honor it?
Yeah. So as far as being influenced by, or like what that gets influenced by, right? It's kind of, if we go back to that original concept that we talked about, where everything that you're getting is basically like input, or it's information that's coming into your system. That's like everything that you've heard, every conversation that you've had, every thing that you've seen that you have interacted with, everything that you've seen that you have interacted with, like all of that to some greater or lesser degree is having an impact on you. Like it pretty much has no choice other than to do that, right? So for me, then what it comes down to is like, first understanding that if you're not aware of it, like until you're aware that everything that you're interacting with is having an impact on you, it's going to have an impact on you, and you might not have as much control over it as you want or as you think. But once you have the awareness of like everything that is around me is having an impact on me, then you can start to kind of choose and have more control over how that's impacting you, right?
Yeah.
So it, as far as like how much does it affect each individual person, I think depends largely on just what that person's like level of awareness is, in terms of like just awareness of how that is impacting them, or even the fact that it's there. Because for some people, that it might not, like, you might not even consider that everything that I heard from the ages of 3 to 18 years old as it relates to like injury. Every time that I had something like that, I went to a PT or I went to a doctor, or even not a PT, not a doctor, maybe it was your mom or your dad or an uncle or something. And this is the perception that they had around it. This is bad. We need to fix it. We need to get it to not feel better, or we need to get it to feel better. Even if you don't realize that, then that's just like your inherited perception of it, because you don't know what else there is. And until you kind of pull those layers back and actually go into it, then it's, once you pull the layers back and you actually go into it, then you can be a little more pause over it versus being effect of all the stuff that you've experienced.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I was always opposed to like the common ways of thinking, which is why I said, I've always sought out people like you, because I don't want information from the doctor who doesn't look like they can do anything athletic. Like, they will not have the experience or have gone deep enough and experimented enough to help me get what I want. So then I see you're doing these one leg death drops off of, this looks like 6 feet, right? Like,
the highest one I've done is 6 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I see that and I'm like, okay, this person knows something. I need to find them. Whereas, like, I had the initial injury back in high school was back pain. Like, I was so in pain, like I couldn't walk at times. And the doctors would be like, "Oh yeah, you just need to rest, or you just got to deal with it." And I'm like, that blew my mind, and that was kind of my like initial like um uh triggering event into like, well, that doesn't make sense. It just, whatever, intuitively or whatever. I was like, or maybe just stubbornness. I was like, I loved basketball so much. I was like, no. What do you mean? Like, I can't, dunk anymore or whatever. I'm like, and that causes you to kind of start seeking out, different education, like you said.
Mm-hmm. And I, just to cut in there for a second, I think a lot of that comes down to when you start to learn or when you start to study something, the intent that you have on where you want to take it is extremely important. Because like if, and I don't want to get, I don't think all sorts are bad. I don't think all doctors are bad. No. I don't think all of that is bad. I don't even necessarily think traditional is bad. It's just like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But the intent that you go into something with is very important, because that is what determines the end result or goal that you want to get at, right? Yeah. So if your intent when going into studying something is to get a degree, or is to get a certification, or is to get some sort of title, that is a different intent than you're going into it literally saying like, these are the people that I'm working with and I'm going to get them better. Right? One has like the first one has like that off intent, kind of, that's of that, where it's like your direct intent is literally to get a certification, versus the other one is just like, I have this person in front of me that I'm working with that I need to get better. Not just, I don't have like something back in me that's saying, well, this is what it tells me to do, so this is what I'm giving you, and I'm backed if it doesn't work. It's not that. It's, I have this person in front of me, and I have to figure out what it is that is going to make them better. Like, that's it. Whether that's, if it's something that is quote unquote like out of your control, like the way they think or whatever, then it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to talk about that. If I actually want to help this person like fully, right? So it's like the intent that you go into studying something with makes a huge difference in terms of what you're able to do with it when you get done with the education, whatever that education is.
Yeah. I agree with you as well, because I think people make things very black and white, like, oh, the medical system is this, and I agree with you. not all doctors are bad, and not, traditional medicine is not all bad. Like, if you can take something that can alleviate something that will allow you to move in another direction, then that's beneficial, that's useful. And you're right, there are doctors who say, okay, you need strength training, or you need X, Y, and Z. And so I don't like the dogmatic or like black and white thinking and it's very, it's prevalent in everything, but also in strength and conditioning, which one of the things that I wanted to get your thoughts on is like, people love making teams. People love, whether they know it or not, like they wrap up their entire identity in, this is my way of training and this is the right way and all other ways are bad. And that was another thing that, really attracted me to you, because I see you're doing all kinds of stuff. There's no thing that's like, oh, well, those are those guys, so we're not going to use this, like, which is silly. Like, you take what's useful and you leave what's not. And, it doesn't mean that we need to hate all the other people who do silly things or things that we don't think are necessary, right?
Yeah. I don't know,
The
just your screen went like black for a second. I don't know if you can see that on your end, but just as a heads up.
Let me see. Of course, we got some.
I can still hear you great. I just didn't know if you knew that.
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. There we go.
All right. But yeah, so I think that's another thing that would be very useful to people, is to kind of not have their identity wrapped up in a certain way of doing things, but more so like what you're saying is like, what outcome do I really want, or what am I looking, what is the real desire here? The real desire is not for like a lot of people, it's like, I don't care about having a 600-pound deadlift. I care about what, getting stronger will allow me to do on the basketball court. Which, why do I want to do that? Because I feel really good when I play basketball. So like, go down the chain of like, what am I actually looking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the whole thing that I do my best to start with is the only rule is that it has to work, right?
Yeah.
And I think a big part of what's helped me kind of think my way through this or get to the point that I'm at right now, and obviously there's probably a long way to go, but like, I've tried a lot of different stuff, as I'm sure you have, over the last 15 to 16 years. And if I were to try the stuff that I'm doing now at a point that was before, there's a chance that like it wouldn't have worked very well for me, right? So like, and I think every coach will say this, is like, if I look back 4 years, what I was doing 4 years ago, like, I'm like, that's stupid and I wouldn't do that anymore or whatever. But at some point that worked for you and it got you to the point that you're at now. So that's why when I look at, or when I see other people that are doing things, I don't have a like, I'm fine with it. It's like,
Yeah,
bro,
you don't have an emotional reaction.
Yeah, there's billions of people on the planet, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to train however many billion of them there are. So you do whatever makes sense to you right now.
Yeah.
And if at some point what I do makes sense to you, then let's roll. Let's go. Like,
yeah.
Because I wouldn't have trained with myself 5 years ago if I would have seen it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's things that I went through that got me to that point. So it's like, I think it's a little bit well, yeah, it's just, I try not to shit on what other people are doing. I'm just like, man, do your thing and keep getting better. Let's go. And actually trying to meet, or, thinking that or saying that or meaning that.
Yeah. That's another thing I really admire about you. And this is something that I look for when I work with people. And I've worked with a lot of like, really smart strength coaches and nutrition coaches. Cause I'm always like, how can I tell somebody to work with me? And if I'm not working with people and learning and growing, but also like, I don't know everything. And if I, if I can find somebody, but one of the things I look for is like how they kind of view this topic. And I love your, because the world of social media, everybody's an expert and everybody has an opinion. And we've read, I've read some of the comments by people, and I'm just like, like when you're doing like some of the impulse stuff,
Yeah.
and like, just read a little comment like something like rest in peace your knees or something like that. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, you like, you don't have to do it, but it's just, to me, that makes no sense. And your attitude towards that kind of stuff is like, I think it's very valuable in and of itself, because like not everybody needs to do what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. Like, it doesn't matter,
Yeah. No, like, I mean, and specifically for comments, number one, I find them funny for the most part, but I think really what it comes down to in situations like that is that is simply because this is how I view things as well. If I comment on something, it's me putting myself in that situation or scenario, and my comment is what I would be thinking if I was doing that, based on where I'm at right now. So if someone makes a comment on something of mine, it has nothing to do with me. All it has to do with where they're at, how they would view themselves if they were doing what I'm doing, and then they're simply expressing that to the comment section. So like it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Other than I'm putting it out.
And that's, again, like I don't talk negatively about any person, but I observe, and that kind of informs who I spend time with. Because if I'm looking at your stuff, I'm spending time with you, and I want to be, I want to experience an enjoyable experience life. And so, like there's certain people, their entire thing is built on shitting on other people. And so even if they have good information, I'm like, I'm probably not going to spend too much time, because I don't think it's the most useful way of going about with things. But I understand it, like, hey, you're going to get a lot of views if you're shitting on this extremely popular thing, because it's polarizing, right? And then all the people on your bandwagon are going to be like, yeah, fuck that guy. And like, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, grown men gossiping in comment sections about exercise, which, like, if you really sit down and think about it, it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, I know. And that's, I'll leave it at that. Like,
I
do it. It's like kind of like do what you want to do, but I just want to put all my focus and attention into actually building what I'm building, like, in period,
And also, like, that's the end of the day, that's what's most important, is like, am I getting closer to the thing I want? That's it. And so if I sit here and I'm like, I start doing 100 point moves, and I'm like, holy shit, like I feel alive and I feel this thing feels so much better, then it doesn't, like, nothing else matters. Even my old thoughts about it don't matter. Because you're right. That brings up a thing, as a strength coach, here I am and I'm coaching people. And I remember there was a specific incident. This was probably like, I don't know, 12 years ago. One of my uncles, he was a wrestler in India. So he's like in his 50s now, but he's always been like fucking yoked thick. And he was doing push-ups. We all went out to, practice wrestling and do drills and work out at the park. And he's doing these push-ups where he's just like bouncing in the bottom range. And me, as this educated strength coach, and I was like, I didn't say anything to him because that's never my, demeanor or whatever. But I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, those aren't correct push-ups, because he didn't control the eccentric. He didn't, go through full range of motion. After like seeing the stuff that we've been doing and what you've been doing, I was like, oh, there's a reason. Even whether he knew it or not, I'm like, I can see the connection between his physique and his abilities, even to his 50s, and the stuff that he was doing. And so even myself, I'm like, oh, 15 years ago, I was like, oh, that's wrong. Today, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It's interesting with talking about exercises and just looking at like what is right and wrong. And it's not just exercise, it's everything, but we can talk specifically about exercise. But it's like the exercise simply does what it does. And everything that you do can have some type of effect or can have some type of impact. Like, even if the way that I was thinking about it is like, we can move pretty much any way we want. So you could move where, like, when we walk, we go like left leg forward, right arm, like we go cross crawl, right? As we move, you could, I guess, if you wanted to, you could go like not cross crawl. You go like right leg, right arm at the same time, left arm, left leg at the same time. Like, you could do that.
Yeah.
We have the capacity to do that. That's not necessarily the best thing to do if what you want to do is walk well or whatever, right? So, I mean, when it comes down to like deciding what exercises to use, when to use them, whether something is good or bad, to me, it comes down to like, what is the context of what you're trying to get done. And if that is the lens that I'm looking through, then it's like, there isn't necessarily an exercise or a thing that's bad all the time. There's only things that don't fit within the context of what we're trying to do with whatever it is that we're doing. So like some of the impulse type stuff that I do, or what you said your uncle, what your uncle was doing in terms of like the balancing stuff. It's like, everything that we do doesn't have to be like that. Everything that we do isn't an impulse. It doesn't have to be an impulse, but there's a place for that if it fits into what you're wanting to do. And like, specifically for my situation with impulses, it's like, I want to be able to handle high loads at very rapid speeds. So there's definitely a place for those to fit in. It doesn't mean that they're right all the time. It doesn't mean that I'd have a 75-year-old grandpa who is having trouble walking, like, start off with that. But it doesn't mean that is something that we can use if the situation or scenario calls for it.
Which, speaking of 75-year-old grandpas, so you know, I work with primarily Gen Pop, and so one of my guys, he's 86, and so and by the way, so this guy's an active surgeon, still perform surgeries every week.
That's amazing.
And he came in because his wife had been working with me for about 6 months, and she got super strong. And then within, I really like to use the deadlift as like a quick win, because we can get pretty much anybody to deadlift a shit ton of weight pretty quickly with a few form things, and it just gets a lot of buy-in. But so he deadlifted like 225 within three months or so. But I've had him start doing, some of the stuff that, we do, and it feels, he feels really good. We're doing like rope impulses. We started adding some drop catches. But the reason I bring that up is like, and I wanted to ask your thoughts on this, because like, as I see it, I'm like, oh shit, like this stuff is valuable. Getting your tissues to be able to absorb more force over time is so valuable. It's like, to me now, the way I think about it right now is like, that is one of the most important things, because if your system is saying this is X amount of force is what I can handle, anything that approaches that limit or goes beyond it, the pain and tightness is going to be there. And so if I can slowly increase that capacity, then all of a sudden, all these things that maybe would have caused pain, they don't cause pain anymore. But like, I'm having all my like Gen Pop people like do all of this stuff, because like, it's just like, it works. Like, this works. Like, why not?
And I think the thing with more of that and I don't really work with that much Gen Pop population by the nature of the content that I put out, right? But I can see it definitely as valuable for that population, almost maybe more so, because that is something that they don't really get anything of. Someone that's an athlete or someone that's training, running hard, doing whatever it is that they're doing within their sport, they are doing shit where it's like high speed movements, high impacts, and that type of stuff. Someone that's Gen Pop, that it's like a surgeon, works an office job or whatever. Like, there's much less of that. And so again, it's not like the entirety of a training program, but usually what tends to help most in the training program or in anything is like, what is the lowest hanging fruit? What is the thing that you haven't done the most as of late? And usually that thing is going to kind of provide the biggest boost, right? And so for someone that's Gen Pop, something like that, where it's high impact, high impulse, or will look like high speed or high force, if they're just walking around, maybe the fastest thing they do is like jog a little bit once in a while. That type of stuff I can definitely see as like re-energizing your system, assuming that it's introduced or implemented at a rate that your body is able to handle, right? But that being something that we can introduce back into the system to help remember what it's like, or to kind of like signal to your body that, hey, we still want you to be able to handle high forces at high speed.
Yeah.
And then your body retains the ability to do that.
I always say, or I repeat the same stuff over and over. One of the things I tell people, I'm like, look, your tissues adapt. They always adapt. The nervous system adapts. So as long as you're giving it the right dosage, you will adapt to it. If you go way over the current amount of acceptable dosage, then you're gonna have problems. So don't.
You'll adapt, but it won't be the adaptation that you want.
Yeah. You're constantly adapting. It's just, do I want this adaptation or not? But so for, it's really cool to see actually, like, so I had him start doing just like, we're standing on flat ground and then he's dropping into a quarter squat, and something he has probably never done in his life. And just to see like people's faces, like, and then, his wife, I had her start off on like, 4 inches, like a plate, and start doing different depth drops, etc. Very chill stuff. To now where she's dropping off of like a bench, a standard bench on one leg. Is like,
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 64.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Dude, insane, right?
Yeah.
And so just to see that, that's a beautiful thing to me. I'm like, holy shit, like that's so cool. But
for sure. Well, and just to add on, because I think, that is part of what. Yeah, I don't agree with the way a lot of people just like view, and this is more Gen Pop, I guess, but view like as you get older, things have to go slower, things have to like. I think it really just depends. To me, it doesn't have that much to do with age. It has more to do with like what is getting in the way. And it just so happens that the longer you're here, like literally the longer that you're physically here, the more time that you have to accumulate things. But people age at different speeds. And to me, it's just everything that goes into like what accumulates in your body over the course of that time is what plays a larger role into how well you're able to function as you go versus just like your pure age.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to use, like, words are very important to me. Is my screen black again?
It went black. Right now it's just frozen. So I see your face, but it's like frozen.
Okay.
There we go.
But of course we got technical difficulties. All right. So I was saying, like, words are very important. So one, I love, because this is the kind of stuff that I would program in my gym in like the descriptions. I love how you title things and what you write. Because that's like how I am, and it actually describes what we're looking for a lot better. Like, let's get juicy, or like I can't forget like some of the stuff, but like it's so important to think about that, because that's part of the intention. It's like, no, I don't want to just we're gonna do this, like you're super technical, and it doesn't, like, yeah, you're describing the exercise, but you're not describing like, what am I trying to get out of this? Like, what do I want to feel, right? And so one of the words that I notice a lot in our programming is like, you want to feel the electricity, and this is an electrical system, and so if the electricity isn't flowing, then that makes perfect sense. Like, things are not going to be moving very quickly or fluidly, and you're not going to feel alive because that current is not circulating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the words are so important. And I tell all my people, because when people are like, oh, well, and I don't allow my clients to talk about age, like, somebody says anything about age, they already know what I'm going to say to them. But I really love the words, and I tell them all the time, like, look, age has nothing to do with it. Our intention with this stuff is we want more vigor, we want more vitality, we want, to feel alive. And like, if you kind of think about it, like, well, if I start doing even something as simple as, tapping something really quickly and seeing how fast I can go, that's a lot of electricity going through there, and that's going to have a positive effect. But yeah, I have to pull up some of this stuff because it's so good.
Well, I mean, I think the descriptions are so important because, like, where it really started for me was a couple of years back. I was really deep into the whole intention rabbit hole, right? Where it's like, oh, your intent plays such a big role. It's like just talk about it over and over. It's like, okay, sure, it does. How do we practically use it? And so the way that I found to practically use it is, all right, man, when I'm actually programming, which is the practical part of what we do, I'm going to include it within the programming.
Yeah.
Of like, this is the intent. So in addition to like sets, reps, exercise, like this is the intent that we have as we're going through that. And it's so important to keep in there. I think it's like the most, it's the most neglected part of programming is.
Dude, I have, like, now that I was thinking about this, I have to go back and look at my spreadsheet. So like I would do all the programming for, the next month or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminds me of, because people would be like, they would be laughing because of the descriptions. Like, it's not a superset, upper lower superset or whatever. It would be something like ridiculous, and people would just be laughing, like, like we would call, like I would go, instead of saying lunges or like a lunge, exercise, it would be like, that block would be called no more flamingo legs or some, shit like that.
Yeah, that sounds like what I do.
Yeah, like I really liked what is it here? Like hyper arm yeets. I was like, it's like we're not just doing this exercise, it's hyper arm yeets, and so that changes the intention. Like rotation gains activated. Like, yeah. I think it is an underrated aspect of good coaching is to,
I think specifically online too. I mean, both. I think in person, we've always had, we've always had some knowledge of, like, obviously there's intention and how you communicate to the person is very important. But then, like, once online started, it's almost like there's this gap, whereas like that was lost. It's like, how do we bridge that a little bit?
Yeah.
To be able to get across what the actual intention is.
Yeah, 100%. Even, and actually, I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts around this. But I'll tell people, I've always told people, I'm like, your thought will literally inhibit muscular contraction. So like a common example is like somebody will go up to a deadlift and it's only 10 pounds more. And you and I know as the coach, like, yeah, you can lift this, like your tissues in your body can lift this. But if that person is coming up the bar, oh my God, this is so much weight. You have just told your nervous system to inhibit and protect itself. So you won't be able to move it. So I would always tell people to think about, like, hey, I want you to think speed and power. I want you to fucking rip this shit off the ground, right? And think speed, think power. And you could see the body language change, and they lift it and it moves quick, and they're like, holy shit. And like it clicks, So that's a really interesting thing. And yeah, what do you thoughts on that? Because like, I mean, I've even experienced it myself. I'm like, if I think this is heavy, the bar doesn't fucking move,
Yeah. No, it's where I start with it is like a lot of some of the stuff that we'll do, whether it's like a joint move, an impulse, maybe even slow lowers to some degree, but things that we'll do where it's training, but there's not really an external stimulus that is going to inhibit you from continuing, right? So like let's say we take a simple joint move, we take like the shoulder flexion to extension joint move, right? You can pretty much always do one. You can pretty much always raise your arm above your head at least one more time, right? And so what I really like about those, and where I found a lot of value in those, in addition to moving your actual physical tissues a shit ton and getting all of that like lubricated and feeling good, right? In addition to that, it's like that is somewhere we can take a person and we can start to explore with what does it mean for you to fully put yourself into something without doing something that is going to like physically damage your tissues, right? It's a simple move with no external load. You're just moving, like just to give you like, because we've done these where it's like, okay, we're going to do these joint moves till fail. It's like, what does that mean to you? How do you take yourself to fail? What is a fail? Like, what is it when there's nothing that's inhibiting you from continuing to go? What point is it that you can get to? How much intention can you put into it? And what does intention mean? Right? So like all those different things, I like those as a way to kind of isolate the intent, where the person starts to understand a little bit more about what that actually means. And then because my personal experience is, as I started to do that and as I started to pull more out of that, I could then apply more of it into what I was doing, where there's actual physical barriers or physical restrictions, like an external load. Because sometimes, like if you're, let's say the heaviest deadlift you have is like 450, most of your deadlift is 450, and we're going to throw like 615 on the bar. It's just like it doesn't like compute as, I don't know, like 200 pounds of intent or whatever, like whatever. It doesn't really compute, right? But if you can take and you can design an environment or design a scenario where intent is the actual limiting factor, because when we're doing like a heavy deadlift off the ground, to some degree, like the external load is the factor that limits you, because there's actual like muscular tissue and all that shit, right? But when you do something like a joint move, the actual thing that limits you is intent, or is your ability to apply intent. It's like a way to train that versus like something like a weighted move or something like that would be. We're more like training the actual muscular physical tissue. It's like it's involved with both, but it's biased a little bit more towards intent when the actual external load isn't so high. It's just like a way to train that.
Yeah. It's and the lots of thoughts up in my head, but like I think this is one of the, you can't, it's so important to get coaching or guidance, because it's hard to, I actually don't know anybody who's ever figured out everything all by themselves. I'm sure it's in the realm of possibility, but everybody who's achieved higher levels, like, you learn from someone because they can see your blind spots, they can articulate things for you, they can shorten that, learning curve. And you just don't get that in kind of the vacuum of yourself, if that makes sense. But I have, so one of the things that I try to get people to do is like whatever it is, I'm like, really want you to crush and melt the bar. And like I started doing this more with all the in-person people, but I can't really tell how much you're squeezing the bar. Like, I don't know. Like, and so before I have them do stuff now, like especially the older people, but I'll have them grab my forearms and I'll tell them like, now squeeze harder and squeeze harder and squeeze harder. Now I know actually like how much they're applying, and they know how, like, what does a real intention feel like, because I'm feeling it and I'm telling them to dial it up, but yeah, just random thoughts. I wanted to ask you about some of your influences, because like some of the stuff, like you talk about cross crawls a lot. Where did you learn about that? I learned about cross crawls through Tim Anderson and Original Strength. And then there's a book by she's a child like she's an expert in child development. And the book is called Smart Moves: Why Learning is Not All in Your Head. But she talks about how learning is, so much more physical than like just, oh, you're thinking about stuff. And what are some of your influences like that I know you talk about Jay. I'm forgetting his name, but what are kind of some of the things that have influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about as a whole, there's been a lot of people, man. Like if we go back to eighth or ninth grade, the first person would be like, or first people would be like Eric Cressy. He's more
Yeah.
like in baseball, but like he was a big one. I mean, there's like for baseball, like there's Paul Nyman, there's Ben Brewster, who now runs Tread Athletics. Or I mean, he has been for a while. It's pretty big, like baseball remote training business. I've known him for a while. There's been like, I mean, more recently, like Jay Schroeder. A little while ago, like I took a lot of stuff or learned a lot of stuff from Tommy John. Got a lot of stuff from him. I mean, there's so many people, like different aspects from like Joe Dispenza. Like I'll just take. It's pretty much, again, everyone that I've come across. Those are some of the main ones, but I'm just like taking those people, and then the process of learning is very interesting. Like because when you first come across, like if I think back, and I'm sure when you think back when you first started doing what is that you do and what is that I do, it's like it pretty much started with just completely copying someone else.
Yeah,
because I had no lens or perspective of my own, so I just have to take someone and I have to copy what it is that they're doing, because that gives me some type of lens or experience or perspective. And it's just basically like every person that I come across is some version of that, where it's like I'm taking what is that they have, I'm pretty much doing exactly what they do, copying it, and then I'm taking my own shit and from it and like integrating it into my perspective. And it's been interesting now where, I mean, honestly, man, for the past probably year and a half to 2 years, I really don't have that much interest in like just listening to other podcasts that are in a similar field that I am, or even sometimes reading books that are in a similar field. Because like I'll try, but it's like once I start, I'm like, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of it is kind of cool where I think you can get to a point where it's like you start to generate kind of your own shit from the experience and everything that you've had.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you can start to create some stuff that are like, you know, I haven't really seen exactly. Maybe it's been there before, but it's just like it's your version of it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so one of my mentors, he calls it engaging the field. Like true learning will not happen until you engage the field. And I'm in the same boat as you. Like, you know, the algorithm still wants to push all this health and fitness stuff to me, and I try not, and I usually don't watch any of it unless something for whatever reason pops out. Like for example, your interview with Mark Bell, that popped out immediately, and then I was like, let me listen to this all the way through. But typically, I'm like, you get an idea of like where this is going, and
yeah,
me being in this gym or in the weight room and engaging with stuff is what has kind of allowed me to kind of develop my own framework or philosophy about going about things. And so I think that is important. But for beginners, like I think people get so fixated on trying to find the right answer that they're not even taking this guy's stuff, go and implement it, experiment with it, see what happens. And now you learn something. So they're just like trying to find the best answer or the right answer, and then they never really actually go into the weight room and like engage the field, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like there is a piece with learning where it's like you have the idea, you have the concept of something. That is not the same thing as going and getting a result with that idea and concept.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting because, well, I mean, it's interesting because like if you get loaded up with just ideas and concepts and you never actually get a real world result with it, like it's not going to be usable for you. You're not going to be able to get a workable solution with that.
Yeah.
It's just like continually taking in more information, where at some point it's just like it doesn't mean anything. It literally has no meaning because you don't physically do anything with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I that reminds me of a quote is like the language of the physical universe is action. Like you at some point you have to act and do something to get some feedback from, you know, the physical universe. Otherwise, it's just, you know, there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
What's your time like? Because there's a couple things that I wanted to kind of go rapid fire on, but
Yeah, we can go a little. Yeah, I'm good.
all right, cool. Yeah, just let me know and you know we can wrap up. Real quickly, like I wanted to know some of your thoughts or like ideas or you know experience about kind of the Joe Dispenza stuff. And then I never actually, I mean, I knew about L. Ron Hubbard. Is I never really kind of dove into any of his earlier stuff because you just kind of get the typical, you know, oh, Scientology, right? And then you dismiss anything that could be useful or valuable. What are your kind of your thoughts on those two guys?
So yeah, the
Or let
dispense.
me ask a better question. What useful things have you found from
Yeah,
those two guys?
yeah. So as far as useful things go, like Dispenza was really. I mean, I started digging into his stuff probably 2018, 2019 was the first time, and so he was really what he helped me with a lot was like understanding the action or relationship between like thoughts, feelings, emotions, and how all that gets wired into your body, right? So it was like understanding how do we actually like change behavior almost is what he really helped me to understand. Wasn't necessarily so much like the meditation stuff, like, but it's more just like being aware that process exists, right? Because I did do the meditation stuff from him, got pretty good at it, and then at some point it was like, okay, I can sit here for 60 minutes and meditate whatever the thing is that I was going through. But then it's like when I'm done, it's like, okay, now what? Like I still want to do stuff. So where I got to in relation to that was basically like but it's like being in that state all the time,
Yeah,
right? So it's just like that is the way that I am.
yeah. I could never really get into real deep meditation either, but what I've kind of experienced is what you're saying is like being present in the thing that you're doing is meditation, you know.
Yes.
So it's I think we get so caught up in like, oh, you need to meditate for 60 minutes or this and that. And it's like, I've
Well,
just
like,
personally never found it helpful or useful for me.
yeah. I mean, it's like just do the thing that you're doing fully,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so where I think whether we call it meditation or we call it something else, what I really use it for is like, okay, can I sit here? And it's interesting because you brought up Scientology as well, right? Which I know has what it has behind it. But like one of the basic things, I don't want to go too deep into it, but one of the basic things that I went through in that is like, can you just sit in a spot and be there? That's it. Nothing else. Like be there. It's like, well, what does that mean? I don't know. What does it mean? Like just be there. That's it.
It's a tough
Right.
skill, man. That's a tough skill.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. That is to just be there.
Also,
But what I was saying is like what I use the meditation for, even if this isn't necessarily the way that it would be described, is like I wanted to simply be able to fully be in a spot,
yeah.
not have shit coming in, not trying to do shit, but just like be there, because then I can get a true representation of what it is that's in front of me or around me, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm there.
Yeah, it's something that I think about personally a lot is like if I'm having a conversation, you know, with my wife, I'm like what would be the most useful or enjoyable experience is if I'm fully here, not thinking, oh, I got to go do this, I got to go do that. And so I'm not here, I'm listening, but I'm not present. And so that's something, and I tried to, and it's always easier to tell somebody about it, but like in the weight room, I tell people, I'm like, hey, I need you to be here with this one rep and like nothing else. Like, don't worry about anything else. So that's interesting stuff. Yeah, because I think most people are never really where they're at, or
Yeah.
always somewhere else.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then so that's kind of like, as far as the dispenser stuff goes, I don't really utilize that too much anymore, other than, like I said, what I got out of it. And then, the Scientology piece, it's, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's changed a lot for me, just in terms of, and this is just my personal experience with it and my personal interpretation of it, is like, it has helped me to understand who I am, what I want to do, why I want to do it, and simply do that. Like, that is what it has done for me. And just like continue to use it as like, what am I? Who am I? What do I want to do? And then tools in place to be that, to like be that.
Yeah, and just even like zooming out on that, it's like, man, how valuable of a skill or state of being is it to be able to even have a conversation about something without getting, disturbed. That's, people get emotionally disturbed by food is a big one, and we won't go into nutrition or anything today, but if somebody says something differently about food, like people just go wild, and I'm like, dude, relax. We're talking about eating. Like, you don't need to get butthurt because somebody eats, they put different things into their mouth than you do.
Yeah.
It has no effect on you. You can, it's fine. We can all eat whatever we want,
Yes. Yeah.
All right. What about some of your favorite like stuff? I know I always like to get to know people a little bit. Just not just, we're talking about lifting weights and getting jacked and all that, but like, what are some of your favorite movies, or like genres of movies? Do you even watch movies?
Yeah. No, I I've watched, as of late, it's been all the Creed movies. So I think I've watched Creed 1, 2, and 3 probably like 2 or 3 times. Like, I've pretty much just been cycling through those, and then Never Back Down.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've been cycling through those. So it just, movie wise, yeah, I'll watch one once in a while. I'm probably like, weekends I'll watch one maybe, and it just depends on what mood I'm in. That's the mood I've been in as of late.
Are you? Would you say you're more of an action guy, or?
No, not all the time.
Okay.
Like, sometimes I'll watch like comedies. Sometimes I'll watch like romantic comedies. Like, it just depends on what mood I'm in at that.
Hey, I love a good romantic comedy. I feel like they're starting to get a little bit better. There was a long stretch of time where there was no good romantic comedies, like 90s, 80s.
Yeah.
Like some of the classics, But sometimes sometimes you just gotta put on a romantic comedy and just chill out.
Man, whatever. Let's roll.
What about music? I know in older videos, or maybe just kind of the thing that I've seen is you had a lot of different random music.
Yeah.
And then recently, I know you even made a post about it. I don't know if it was on your stories or whatnot, but you're not even playing any music. And because that's kind of how I am. Like, I don't think I rarely ever play music, or it's usually something people would consider weird. Like, back in the gym days, we would have like Madonna Mondays, or like Phil Collins Fridays, or like, if nobody else was in the gym, I would be playing like jazz, or like, random stuff. What are some of your musical tastes and preferences?
Yeah, I'll listen to a lot of stuff. As far as like when training, it's like I said, it's either no music. I have like a rock workout that I'll play. For me, the rock it's heavier stuff. It's not like classic rock. I'm not really that big of a fan of like classic rock. But like that, I'll have like rap that I'll listen to. I'll have one that I have. It's called just like vibes, where it's just like
Good vibes.
yeah, it's there's not any words with it. It's just like I don't know. I guess electronic music is probably the best way. Like electronic house music, that type of stuff. Once in a while, if I'm not like training, I'm just like chilling. I listen to country, but not really much. That's pretty much it right now. Yeah.
I feel like
I didn't really like Kendrick I hadn't listened
recently?
to much Kendrick because I'd only heard like like popular Kendrick until this latest beef
Till the
thing.
beef. Yeah.
And I didn't really know, like someone else had told me what was going on. And I was like, okay, I'll listen to him. And then I listened to Euphoria and I was like, oh, I love this track. So
Yeah. It was good. Those were some good.
the beef produced some good music.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have an opinion on who won the beef, or is the beef still outstanding?
I mean, as it is right now, I'm pretty sure like 95% of people would have to say Kendrick, and I'd have to say as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, man, like Drake makes good music. I don't, whatever.
Yeah, I still like him. I still listen to him. Like I was just happy that they're producing good tracks out of it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Dope, man. Anything you got coming up you want to plug or whatever?
No, man. Just continuing
Good
to
vibes and getting jacked and juicy.
yeah, continuing to figure out what we can do.
DAC Performance and Health is the Instagram. That'll be in the stuff, in the things. Any other place?
No, I mean, no. Those would be the
have a
like,
YouTube, right?
Yeah, YouTube.
Oh yeah. You do have a good. I like your YouTube actually a lot, so I'll put that in there as well.
Okay.
There's some gems in there. But yeah, dude, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. We will see you guys in the next one. You know where to find Brady, and that is a wrap.